that the NFA needs to import more rice. However, farm groups point out that this runs counter to the NFA's mandate of sourcing its supply from local farmers.
A Commission on Human Rights study reveals that graduates of the K12 program are not landing jobs, a main goal of the program when it was launched back in 2012. Is there something wrong with the program, or are employers just looking for more qualified graduates? We'll be discussing this further with Philippine Business for Education Deputy Executive Director Diane Fajardo-Valencia.
There's no shortage of inspiring stories in the field of law today, with many aspiring lawyers welcoming the result of last year's bar exams, and with one former street vendor finally becoming a judge. Newly appointed Municipal Trial Court Judge James Avalos Fernandez shares to our team how he made his dream come true. We'll get to know more about Judge Fernandez's remarkable journey later on in the program.
From the nation's capital, I'm Gretchen Ho.
I'm Riza Diaz.
And I'm Sean Yao. The big story tonight.
The national government is targeting a bigger buffer supply of rice in preparation for the El Nino.
In response, the head agency tasked to make sure that buffer stocks are sufficient wants to import supply contrary to its mandate.
Now, agriculture groups oppose the move, saying that importing would only cost more. Maricel Halili with the big story.
There's a need to increase the country's rice buffer stock. That's according to President and Agriculture Chief Bongbong Marcos. This is to make sure we have enough supply for the lean months and reserve stock for relief operations during times of calamity. To augment the country's rice buffer stock, the National Food Authority is proposing to import around 330,000 metric tons of rice.
Mababa ang buffer stock ng NFA, kailangan bumili yung NFA para umabot siya ng at least 9 days na buffer stock. So yun ang pinaplano natin ngayon kung paano nila gagawin. Dahil ang NFA, kailangan ibibilhin nila yung kanilang buffer stock, bibilhin nila sa local producer.
In a video message, President Marcos said that the government would have to weigh the implications of importing more rice.
Ang problema, kapag sila ay pumasok sa merkado, pag sila'y namili na para i-replace yung buffer stock na nakulang nila, ay tataas naman ang presyo ng bigas. Siguro, ang magagawa natin ay ang pagbili ay hindi bigla, hindi malaki.
But as early as now, agriculture group SINAG is opposing any plans to import. SINAG says the country has enough reserve supply of rice until August, even without importation. Instead, SINAG is urging the NFA to buy palay directly from local farmers, since it would also be cheaper compared to importing. According to SINAG, the landed cost of imported rice would be around 36 pesos per kilo, while buying local would only cost around 21 pesos per kilo.
Aside from pricing concerns, farmer groups have one other issue with the plan to import more rice. We spoke to Maricel Halili about this. Mase, what do you have?
Gretchen, the Federation of Free Farmers, or FFF, is also against importation. The group argued that it violates the rice tariffication law, which mandates that the NFA can only procure rice buffer stocks from local farmers. The group has been voicing their concerns as early as last year about the possible problem on the rice supply. But President Bongbong Marcos assured the public that we have enough supply of rice at the moment. Gretchen?
All right, thank you for that update, Maricel Halili.
Now, here to join us for a discussion, we have Director Unicolt Manalo from the Field Operations Service of the Department of Culture. Director Manalo, good evening. Thank you for joining the big story.
Hello, good evening, Ms. Lisa, Ms. Gretchen, and Ms. Sean.
Okay, Director, groups are opposing it, but tell us, is there really a need to import more rice in preparation for El Nino?
Well, I think we all have seen the statement of the President, President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., who is also the acting the Department of Agriculture Secretary. They had a meeting yesterday in Malacanang with the NFA and DA. And I think the NFA has a proposal for an importation of around, 330,000 metric tons. Well, according to the President, they still have to study that because as of now, and sabi nga din po ng ating ibang groups no, that are opposing yung plan for importation, we still have enough supply at the moment. And if ever that the decision will come to import, I think the suggestions of buying from the local produce or from the local palay farmers, I think that the President will also listen to that.
All right, Director, I think the fact that this importation is coming into play, even if it's against the mandate, it kind of signals that kulang tayo ng domestic supply of rice. So, kulang nga ba ang domestic supply natin? Ano yung kalagayan ng ating mga farmers on the ground right now?
Because of the rice tariffication law, pwede pong mag-import. No? And yung imported rice, as long as they will pay yung tariff, ito po is dumadagdag, it adds up to our local supply. And I think wala naman po tayong experience even for the past years na nagkakaroon tayo ng deficit in the supply. So I think yung pong sa importation po kasi is medyo nagiging sensationalized. It's because it's the NFA who made the suggestion or the recommendation for the government to import. Kasi nga po, the mandate of the NFA now is for buffer stocking in times of calamities, which is, ngayon po, is we are preparing for an event for El Nino.
Here's tama po kayo, no? Meron po tayong import of rice every year. In fact, last year, we imported 1 million more metric tons compared to the past year. For this year, do you see that figure, the 3.7 million metric tons going up? And ano po ba talaga yung tamang buffer supply stock? How many days? Is it 9 days according to the President or 30 days according to the Finance Chief?
Well, actually, previously po, dun sa before na nagkaroon ng restructuring or bago napasa yung rice tariffication law, ang talagang hinihit po natin na target for buffer stocking is at least 30 days. So ngayon po ang lumalabas na supply is around 7 days. That's why the President, ang sabi niya kanina, dun sa statement niya is at least sana umabot ng 9 days. So, well, yung importation po, ang ano naman po ng government is we will not allow for the imported rice to come during the harvest season. Kasi po, siyempre, madidefeat naman yung purpose natin to provide or support, lalo na yung sa price, no, with sa ating mga local palay farmers.
Alright, baling natin konti yung conversation, Director Manalo. Ano po ba ang ginagawa natin for our farmers dyan sa DA, no? Since meron nga tayong posibilidad na magka-El Nino in the third quarter, ano po yung pinaghahandaan natin? Nakikita na ba natin itong mga water infrastructure na pinangako nung kampanya, like yung mga irrigation and so on and so forth?
Yeah, magandang tanong po yan, Ma'am Sean, no? We already have at least, I think, twice a meeting, interagency. Okay, this was called by the Office of Civil Defense as well as the Presidential Management Staff. Kasi po, we need a full of government approach. For the DA, yung usual po natin binibigay ngayon sa mga farmers is seeds, fertilizers. Tapos yung we also extend yung mga water-saving technologies, lalo na po dito sa mga rain-fed as well as yung mga upland areas, na ito po talaga yung medyo tatamaan o mga water-stressed areas if na magkaroon talaga tayo ng El Nino this coming third quarter of the year. So, dun po sa mga areas na yung may mga irrigation systems, andyan po ang ating National Irrigation Authority, no, na sa pakikipagtulungan po ng ating local government units as well as mga irrigators association. sa pagkukumpuni po at pag-aayos po ng ating mga irrigation systems para po yung tubig ma-maximize po natin ang gamit. Doon naman po sa mga areas na medyo talagang water stress, magbibigay po tayo ng mga pump and engine kasi nga po ito yung pwede nating magamit para sa pagpapatubig. May mga technology po na itinuturo, yung katulad po dyan sa sinasabi natin sa mga irrigated areas naman na kung sakaling magkaroon ng kakulangan sa tubig, meron po tayong tinatawag na yung alternate wetting and drying. Kasi po, ang mentalidad po kasi natin, basta pag magtanim ka ng palay, dapat may paparating may tubig. Hindi po. Ang tubig po is may mga certain stage lang po ng pagpapalaki ng ating palay ang dapat lang ginagamitan ng tubig.
All right. Well, maraming salamat, sir, for clarifying that and sharing with us all those informations. That's Director Nicols Malalo of the Agriculture Department.
Moving on to other news, Pamplona Mayor Dianes has protested against the virtual attendance of Congressman Arnie Davis in the upcoming Senate probe on Monday. Elaine Fulgencio with the details.
Pamplona Mayor Dianes, wife of slain Negros Oriental Governor Roel Digamo, greatly expressed her disappointment on Friday. This was after the Senate Public Order and Dangerous Drugs Committee's decision to allow suspended Negros Oriental Representative Arnie Davis to virtually attend its upcoming hearing. In a letter addressed to Committee Chair Senator Bato de la Rosa, Digamo said she finds the move unfair, saying she and other alleged victims will be sacrificing their time, effort, money, and security while Davis will only attend online. Digamo also appealed to the Senate panel to reconsider their decision in accommodating Davis, who she says is a fugitive. For his part, Senator De La Rosa said he will discuss it with the members of the Senate Public Order and Dangerous Drugs Committee so they can come up with a decision before the hearing starts on Monday. Meanwhile, the Teves camp filed a motion to dismiss complaints of illegal possession of firearms and explosives during the preliminary probe at the Justice Department. Teves lead counsel Attorney Ferdinand Topacio said the motion for dismissal is due to an utter lack of evidence to support a finding of probable cause.
Yung finding po nila dito na talagang yung ownership noong firearms are in doubt.
Respondent Jose Gamarangan also filed his counter-affidavit in relation to illegal possession of firearms and explosives.
We expect that we are just praying and hoping na totally ma-dismiss na talaga itong kaso. Kasi from the very onset, talagang meron ng resolution ang DOJ saying na kulang ang ebidensya to prove the existence ng elements ng crimes of illegal possession of firearms and explosives.
The PNP-CIDG filed the complaints after Teves residences in Negros Oriental were searched last month, wherein weapons and explosives were found there.
Let's ask Elaine Fulgencio what the camp of Congressman Arnie Davis had to say about the upcoming Senate hearing on Monday.
Sean, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio said that the upcoming Senate hearing on Monday will be an opportunity for his client, Congressman Arnie Davis, to clear his name. Davis, who is believed to be in Cambodia, has denied the accusations against him and appealed for fairness. Meanwhile, despite his earlier pronouncement that the case can be considered solved, Justice Secretary Boying Rimulya said that the filing of charges against the suspects in the Digamo slay may take a while, adding that the DOJ is still looking at 2 to 3 people involved in the killing. Sean?
Thanks for that, Elaine.
Several areas in Luzon continue to get drenched with rain showers due to the low-pressure area formerly tropical depression Amang. In its final advisory on the weather disturbance issued at 11 in the morning, Pag-asa said the LPA was 120 kilometers northwest of Iba, Zambales. Cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms were experienced in Bataan and Zambales provinces. Meanwhile, Pag-asa noted that dry, warm weather is expected in the coming days with the absence of a weather disturbance within the Philippine area of responsibility.
Up next, lawmakers have intensified their calls to review the K12 curriculum, citing various issues, including low employability among graduates. Philippine Business for Education's Diane Fajardo Valencia will weigh in on the matter when we return Keep it here on One News. You are still watching the big story here on One News.
Now, earlier today, Filipino and American soldiers during the Balikatan exercises practiced on how to attack and reclaim an island that is supposedly taken over by the enemy. Something quite new for this year's Balikatan. Brian Castillo has the report.
This was the display of force shown by Filipino and American soldiers in the amphibious raid demonstration of Balikatan 2023 in Brooks Point, Palawan. The training simulation involved recapturing an island taken by the enemy. Aerial surveillance was conducted using a helicopter. The soldiers approached the shore riding amphibious assault vehicles. And as they landed on the ground assault began.
Pwedeng sa counter-terrorism, pwedeng sa retaking of island, which is yun ang scenario ngayon.
Several Philippine Navy warships such as BRP Tarlac joined the amphibious raid demonstration. Likewise, some warships from the U.S. Pacific Fleet were also featured. Their attack helicopters also provided air support.
Ang balikatan na ito ay ginagawa para ma-practice, ma-rehearse yung interoperability between our forces and our US counterparts. So kailangan nating mag-conduct ng ganitong activities para sa future implementation ng mga operations natin.
The modern amphibious assault vehicles of the AFP were also featured in the training, which can be likened to tanks but can also run underwater. Some residents of Brooks Point watched the Balikatan exercises and some even took selfies with American soldiers.
Yung okay ba sa inyo na may ganito?
Masaya po, okay lang po.
Bakit?
Para may mga tagapagtanggol sa atin.
Okay naman po kasi karagdagang kaalaman din yun ng mga kasundaluhan natin. Hindi naman tayo makakarating sa kanila para makita sila. Kaya salamat na rin dahil sila mismo ang nakapunta rito sa atin.
The location of the Balikatan exercise in Brooks Point is just a few kilometers away from the disputed territories in the West Philippine Sea. However, the AFP again said that the military exercise is not related to the dispute.
It's purely parang routine to eh. Every year nagkakandak tayo ng Balikatan exercise. Nagkataon lamang na ngayon ang site ng amphibious raid na Balikatan exercise, amphibious operations ay dito sa Brooks Point.
2023 amphibious raid. So aside from the amphibious exercises, other activities are planned for, or what other activities are planned for the rest of Balikatan 2023? Brian Castillo joins us once more to give us the details.
Visa live fire exercises and
Combat readiness drills were also among the exercises conducted by the Philippine and U.S. troops in various locations in the country as part of the largest Balikatan to date. One of the highly anticipated events is the live fire exercises on April 26, which will be held in Zambales near Scarborough Shoal. Their aim is to sink a ship. President Bongbong Marcos has already expressed interest to watch the said event. As mentioned earlier, the AFP maintained that these military drills are not centered on China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea. Riza?
Thank you. That was Brian Castillo.
Moving on now to calls to revisit the K12 program getting louder. Senate recently entered a discussion calling for a review on the current basic education system. This follows reports of K12 graduates having difficulty finding jobs, which is a key goal of the program. So why is this happening? Where does the problem lie? Is it in the K12 program itself or its curriculum? Or are employers just looking for more qualified applicants? The Education Department says it will be releasing curriculum guidelines for the kinder to junior high level. Meanwhile, curriculum guidelines for senior high school are still being ironed out. And the three of us are going to be hopping in on that discussion along with Philippine Business for Education Deputy Executive Director Diane Fajardo Valencia. Diane, thank you for coming back on the show. What is your personal assessment of the K-12 program? Is it effective?
Hello, good evening, Gretchen, Riza, and Sean. So thank you for inviting us. So first, the learning crisis that we are experiencing cannot be blamed solely in the K-12 program. We should look at it more holistically literally from day zero of a child to the moment that he or she graduates and also continues to upskill and reskill. So as you've mentioned, the Department of Education has already reviewed K-10, and this year we are also helping them review senior high school by connecting them to various industries, so that the curriculum of the senior high school will also be aligned. But aside from basic education, we should also look at early childhood education, because actually 1 out of 3 children or 5-year-olds are stunted. Once you're stunted, or once a child is stunted, developmentally their brains cannot absorb more, or like they can't read proficiently once they enter formal schooling. So it's also a big problem, especially nutrition or malnutrition. Second is teacher quality. As we all know, our teachers are overburdened, but at the same time, if you look at the specializations of some of our teachers, especially in senior high school, they don't match the respective strands or subjects that they need to teach. Sadly, we don't have industry experts or people who really know the industry or the work outside of basic education or outside college that can teach them. So that's two. Second is third is the congested curriculum that DepEd is already addressing. They plan in the Matatag agenda. They plan to further reduce the learning areas and the learning competencies further, so that children can really focus on reading, numeracy, values, and like building that social emotional skills.
Diane,
so it's quite a long list. But
I know.
Feel free.
I mean, when we talk about our educational sector, the ones that you mentioned have been long-standing problems. But just taking a look at the K-12, there are questions on employability right after grade 12. Are they really having a hard time finding work, or is it because the study was conducted, I mean, after the pandemic, there's an influx of available employees?
We already have an employability crisis even before the pandemic. Because if we look at the data, even before the pandemic, the learning poverty and the learning adjusted years, or the learning gap. So the learning poverty is 9 out of 10, or like 90.9%. It means 90.9% of children age 10 cannot read simple text. And then in terms of learning gap, graduates who finish So graduates of senior high school only have the competencies of grade 6. So even before the pandemic, our graduates don't have the necessary skills. And in our study, it's actually the skills that are being taught in basic education matches around more than 90% of what the industry needs. However, the soft skills are lacking. So that's a social emotional skills like resilience, leadership, communication, grit, etc. So those are what's lacking in the curriculum. And of course, we can't teach it if it's already super congested.
All right, on that note, Diane, so sorry, but we have run out of time. Thank you, as usual, for sharing those insights with us. PIBA Deputy Executive Director Diane Fajardo Valencia. Thanks, Diane. Still to come, as the country welcomes a new batch of lawyers with over 3,000 examinees passing the 2022 bar, we'll talk about the inspiring story of a judge who came from humble beginnings as a vendor. Keep it here on One News.
You're still watching the big story here on One News.
Now, we've all heard of the classic rags to riches story, but this one from Benguet is a tad out of the ordinary, as it can truly resonate with any ordinary Filipino with a big dream. From selling ice candy on the sidewalk, a Benguet local proves that anything is possible through hard work and dedication as he officially becomes a court judge. Francis Orsho tells us the inspiring story of Judge James Fernandez in this report.
For countries like the Philippines, poverty is often the biggest hurdle in achieving success. One must put in more effort and dedication to be able to reach their goals. For Benguet's Judge James Abalos Fernandez, these are the very keys that led him to his current position. Growing up in a poor household, Fernandez served as the sidewalk vendor at a young age. His father was a carpenter while his mother was also a vendor at the local market. Fernandez says their household income is often not enough to sustain the needs of all 9 children in the family.
Mula elementary hanggang high school, nagtitinda kami. Maalala ko, nung College of Law na din ako, nagtitinda pa din ako sa school, okay, sa office. Gusto kong tumulong sa aking mga kapatid.
Fernandez used to sell food items like rice cakes, barbecues, banana Q, hot cake, ice candies, or refreshments. This is where he used to get his allowance for school, while a part of his income is used for household expenses. Fernandez shared that he often struggled financially as a student, but through his hard work, he was able to finish law at the University of Baguio in 2014. Even then, Fernandez believed there's so much more for him to achieve. He started practicing law in 2015, and after 8 years, he has been appointed as a judge for 2nd Municipal Trial Court of Tublay Atok Benguet on March 27.
Nung nag-work na ako sa LGU Baguio, na gusto kong ipagpatuloy yung pag-aaral ko sa law dahil may mga nakikita akong mga injustices sa ating lipunan na gusto ko, pag ako yung maupo bilang judge, ay gagawin ko yung to give justice to everyone.
Despite the numerous challenges he faced, Judge Fernandez says he never wavered and kept on trying to achieve this dream. And for others who may be losing hope, here's his advice.
Just keep on going at makakamit mo din yung tagumpay in a right time. Ibibigay naman ni Lord yun kung talagang para sa'yo na yun.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analyses. I'm Sean Yao.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Stay safe, Philippines.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. We are One News, all sides, all the time.